Welcome everyone on this beautiful November afternoon to our second technology workshop this semester. Today we're going to be talking about back channeling and digital literacies. And we will go into these two topics in a second. But before we do that, a few organizational things. So this is a recorded presentation, meaning that at some point in time, it will make its merry way onto into our YouTube channel. So hopefully, everyone is okay with that. If throughout this presentation, this workshop, you have any questions or any contributions that you would like to make outside of sort of the designated air, time frames, feel free to use the chat box to that end. There will be a couple of times when we hope to have conversations with you guys, largely about your experiences and ideas surrounding back channeling and digital literacies. And whenever that happens, I will make sure to indicate that. I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of talking today because we have two fantastic guests with us who are also Columbia instructors. We are hosting Peter Lauwert, whose last name I just butchered, but who is instructor of Dutch here at Columbia, and Chikako Takahashi, who teaches Japanese. And yeah, they will be talking about their experiences when it comes to back channeling and digital things. So with that preamble, let's get right into the meat of things. To maybe situate our event, our presentation a little bit, I wanted to introduce the notion of back channeling because there's oftentimes a bit of a confusion about what it means. And that stems from the fact that it can mean two different things that are rather distinct, both of which relate to the field of linguistics. On the one hand, and this is from more of a pragmatics and discourse analysis perspective, back channeling is usually the kind of feedback that the listener provides to the interlocutor during a conversation. So this would be things like, yeah, okay, nodding, some gestures, those kinds of, communicatively minded or intended interlocutions would be considered back channeling. So that's sort of on the pragmatic side. On the side of second language pedagogy, we are talking about a conversation. So not just feedback, but the whole conversation. It could be taking place parallel to the main conversation in the classroom. That sort of back channeling is usually digitally mediated, usually takes place on or through some sort of a platform in some sort of environment, utilizing a specific genre or a set of genres. And to see how it operates, we will investigate that in a bit. But before we get into it, I sort of wanted to open up the floor for just a few minutes and ask you guys, why do you think back channeling is something that we should be paying attention to? Why is this something that may be important in the language classroom, just from your own experience? And feel free to unmute yourselves if you would like to answer.
Hi, I think back channeling is very important in the sense that it gives the addressee some kind of feedback, and also it tells him or her that I'm following you or listening to you. I'm interested in what you're saying, but also it makes the dialogue or conversation more natural and flows naturally.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this would be more sort of in the pragmatic
Oh,
understanding of back channeling, but when we consider it in terms of the parallel conversation happening in class, why would this be something that is desirable in the language classroom? Anyone? Okay, well, our presenters will talk about some of these considerations, some of these reasons. I briefly summarize them on this slide for you. You know, first and foremost, opening a back channel of communication allows your students equal access and equal opportunity to engage with the content. However, that content may be defined. Sometimes we have students who are more shy, sometimes there are more talkative ones. The more talkative ones tend to dominate the class conversation. This allows the more shy students to also participate and to have their voices heard. Likewise, it is a great space for peer assistance and peer feedback. And since we are talking about interacting between students and among peers, you know, this naturally creates and fosters a sense of community. Um, when it comes to just plain and simple classroom management and classroom logistics, back channeling is also very important. But instead of going into the details of how it may be utilized, I'm going to let our first presenter, Peter, talk about it himself. So, Peter, why don't you take the floor now? And I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to let you take over.
Okay, first of all, thank you for having me. So I'm going to talk about WhatsApp and how I use WhatsApp in my classroom. And in the past, as a language instructor, I felt so much stress, and the stress didn't come from the teaching, but it come from the pure act of taking all those copies, because I had to think, how many copies do I have to make? I had to distribute the copies in class. I had to make sure that students who were absent got a copy next time. And it happened a lot that you say something like, okay, I want you to use a handout that we used last week. So, but not everyone had the handouts with them. So it was this constant stress going on of making sure that everyone was sitting down with the same copy in front of them. And to get rid of that stress, I decided to go paperless. So I'm no longer making any physical paper copies of my instructions. Instead, what I do is I use WhatsApp. And WhatsApp is an app you can install on your smartphone very easily. And I use it to share documents with my students in class. One of the main reasons, apart from the stress, is that I'm teaching a hybrid class with students at Yale and Cornell. And of course, you can't post those copies. I had to publish modules, and it was another burden just putting on top of everything else. So instead, I said, let's go paperless and let's use WhatsApp instead. How do I do that? First of all, before the first day of classes, I announce on courseworks that they need to come to class with a smartphone and that they need to install WhatsApp on their smartphone. Once they're in my first class, I share a number with them, which is my professional number, and I create a WhatsApp group. Basically, I ask them to send me a message through WhatsApp. So I have their number, and then I create one big WhatsApp group. Once I have the group, I can start sharing documents with them. That's very easily. It's like drag and drop. Takes 1 second basically just to drop the file either on your smartphone or via the laptop onto WhatsApp, and everyone has the file right in front of them. What are the advantages of doing this? First of all, the main advantage, of course, is I no longer have to worry about, does everyone have a copy? Does everyone has the right copy in front of them? What do we do with missing students? Because all the files are just in WhatsApp. Another advantage is it's a one-stop shop. So there's just one place they need to go to. Students know when they come to class, they need their smartphone, They open WhatsApp and that's it. They don't need anything else. They don't need Canvas. They don't need paper. They don't need pen. They just need WhatsApp. And on WhatsApp, they find all the files. I know other instructors use courseworks, but again, you're overcomplicating things. They need to log in. They need to find the files. Are they posted under files? Are they posted under modules? It's just overcomplicating stuff. Whereas with WhatsApp, it's just one place they should go to and they can find it. Another major advantage is efficiency. So time-wise speaking, it goes very quickly. It takes me like 2 or 3 seconds to drag and drop the file into the group, and then everyone has the file right in front of them. What are one of the best or some of the best practices? First of all, when announcing that you're going to use WhatsApp as a platform to share documents with your students, there needs to be an opt-out option. So I state in the announcement and also on the first set of classes, students who do not feel comfortable using WhatsApp because of privacy reasons, they can opt out. It's an option. And if they opt out, then basically what I would do, because it hasn't happened before, I would share a Google Drive with them with all the files. But like I said, I've been doing this, at least in Belgium, at least 5 years now. So over 1,000 students have used my WhatsApp group, and not one of them was didn't want to share their number. But if they do not want to share it, it's an option to opt out. A second thing is you need to make clear rules about how to use the platform and when and how they can reach me. So they know they can reach me via WhatsApp or via email, but they also know that they can't expect an answer within like 2 minutes or so. And so there needs to be some clear grounds, rules of how are we using this in class and why are we using it and why not. Another thing that I found interesting is that if you create a WhatsApp group, of course you get all these notifications the moment people start doing things in the group, which is eventually what we're aiming for, right? So what I do is I mute the group, because otherwise you get constant notifications all the time when students are like talking to each other or saying stuff. And if you're muted, you don't get notifications. And I just check the group once a day to see whatever they've been doing. Here at Columbia, I'm using WhatsApp in a very limited way. Basically, it's a means to share files with all my students, and also they can reach me to ask questions. What's different in Belgium, where people are less concerned, I think, with the privacy issue, is that in Belgium, my WhatsApp group is a community. So my students, for example, now I'm teaching Threshold 1, and there were 2 extracurricular activities. They had to go visit the town, Mechelen, and do a quest in Mechelen, and they also had to go to the library. So when they do the activity on their own over the weekend, because it's a remote course, they take pictures of whatever they're doing. They share the pictures with their colleagues in the WhatsApp group, and people start commenting on the pictures. Also, when they, for example, see a nice movie in Dutch, they just inform each other, hey, this is an interesting trailer. You can see this movie on Netflix with Dutch subtitles and so forth. So it's a means, it's a platform that they use to communicate not only with each other, but also with me about extracurricular things that they're doing. But also, for example, when they're doing their homework and they have some difficulties, they just write a sentence in the WhatsApp group and they're like, I don't know how to do this. And then you just wait, take a stance back, and then you let the students interfere and they try to figure it out on their own. And after time, if they don't know it, I step in and give the answer. So basically, in Belgium, it's more than just a device to share files. It's like a community building thing. And even when the class is over, for privacy reasons, for the European GDPR, I have to leave the class, I have to leave the WhatsApp group. But I know from the students themselves, they stick to the group. So even if I withdrew or am no longer part of the group, they're still in it and they still use it with each other to communicate. So it's like a nice way to get in touch with each other, apart from just using it as a means to make less copies. That's it. That's my little talk.
Oh, thank you, Peter. Yeah. So some of the things that you did touch on were some of the more important things were perhaps the community building aspect, at least in the Belgian context, where students use this platform not just to, you know, be in, or not just whenever they're in class, but also when they're outside of the class, when they want to, you know, let each other know about certain things that are worth checking out, which makes for a more coherent, right, pedagogical experience. And then, interestingly enough, the way that you yourself use it here at Columbia is also very effective. And as you mentioned yourself, you know, makes the management of the course, the logistics, a lot more transparent, a lot more straightforward. Um, so with that being said, I wanted to bridge your presentation with our next presenter, Chikako, who is using a similar approach, but with a different platform, and who will be talking about some of the things that you also mentioned, but also, you know, an expanded functionality of back channeling. And so, without wasting too much time, I'm going to invite Chikako to take the floor
Yes,
and
there's a
to
question. I see.
tell us a little bit more about your experience with back channeling, what kind of solutions and platforms you use, and also how your students respond to it.
Yes, I think there's a question. I see a hand.
Yes, I do have a question, but I don't know if you want me to wait till the end, Simon.
It would be nice if we could hold the questions until the end.
Okay.
Chances may be that you know, Chikako may answer this question, right? We have a whole...
Yeah, I don't think so, but okay, I'll wait.
And if not, that's fine. You know, it's good to you know, aggregate them at the end too.
Sure.
Okay, so Chikako, go ahead.
Yes, can you see my presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so first of all, thank you for letting me share my experience with Discord. So let me talk first about what is Discord. Who here has heard of Discord? No? Yes, kind of. So it's released in 2015, originally to help gamers communicate with each other, but now they're focusing more on just community building as a community platform. So it's a community platform with voice calls, video calls, and text messaging capabilities. And so users can create communities called servers. So each server is actually each community with people with shared interest, and they can invite other users. So the popularity among college students has been growing in recent years. And according to Discord, over 200 colleges and universities are on the platform, although some of them might not be on public servers. So the reason why I started using Discord is that I needed a place for students to communicate with each other outside of the classroom and to share resources without having to log into Canvas. Because like Peter said, I think Canvas, you have to, you know, do your credential things, log in. It makes it more like a task for the class. So I wanted to have something more casual. And I also wanted to lower threshold for students to contact me. So to make it less intimidating for them to reach out. And also at the same time, a friend who teaches computational linguistics at University of Utah has successfully used Discord for their courses. And so actually I started using Slack first. Slack is a very similar platform, but I had some issues with Slack. So now I'm very happy that I moved to Discord. And I'm going to talk about that issue later. So this is what you see when you open a Discord app on your desktop. I have an app on the desktop and also on my phone. So here is the different servers that I created. So any servers that you create or you join, it's going to appear here. So I have 2 courses, first year Japanese 2 and first year. So I'm teaching 2 sections of first introductory Japanese B, but with this server, I can put those 2 sections together. So when I do the announcement and stuff, all of the students in 2 sections can see here. And then on the top is the direct messaging. So here you see different channels. I only use text channels for now, but I might start using voice channels too. So channels you can create by yourself. It can be anything. So I created general for announcements. So here, anything important goes here. And I also send a Canvas announcement so that they don't miss anything. And I also created Japanese culture channels where students can talk about anything related to Japanese culture, and then language related questions where students can ask about ask language questions. And I encourage students to respond to each other's questions before I, intervene. And then I also have language learning resources channel where a student or I can share resources related to learning, videos, songs, and online resources, and so on. So I think those customizable channels are great because I think those channels encourage students to ask questions to peers, instructors on specific topics. And I think it's inclusive, right? Because everybody can see the questions and answers. And it provides several modes of communication. And I think that will lower the threshold to reach out to the instructor or peers. So to make it less intimidating for some students. And I also like the fact that I can have 2 modes of acknowledgement. So if you have, if you send an email or if you receive an email, and if you want to show that you have read, in the email you have to reply, right? But here, because you can use emoji, you can just do like thumbs up emoji, and that's it. So I think last semester, one time I had to move to Zoom instruction for one class, and I had to send that announcement right away, but I wanted to make sure everybody read that announcement. So I asked them to indicate that they have read. So then I had like a little thumbs up, then I could see who didn't read. Then I could individually just reach out to those who didn't indicate that they have read the message. So I really like those using of the emoji and stuff. And so with channels, you can also restrict access to certain channels. So then it's possible to create channels for separate sections of the same course. So here in the introductory Japanese B course, I had some announcement I wanted to just send to section 2 students. So I created this restricted channels with the student from section 2 only. Then they will receive the information, but nobody else did. And by doing this function, I was able to invite outside collaborator to certain channels. So for this introductory Japanese B course, I'm doing a final project with students in Japan. So I invited those students in Japan to certain channels. So Japanese culture, anything else, life in the US, so they could participate in the conversation with my students. And actually this life in the US channel was Columbia students' idea. So they said, since they're helping us learn Japanese, we wanna help them learn English. So why don't we create live in the channel, in the live in the US channel, so they can ask us questions about the US. And I think it's great. And I love, incorporating students' feedback into these projects. And I realized that by using Japanese culture, this kind of channel with native speakers of Japanese in Japan, I could actually create authentic language content for the students to consume, right? So I ask questions, or students ask questions in Japanese, and then they, respond in Japanese. That's already an authentic content. And I also, create posts about my weekend or something that I ate in Japanese. And I wouldn't do that on Canvas, right? It's just a little too formal, I feel like. And then I also wouldn't like email students talking about my weekend, but then posting a channel is a casual thing. So I could just, with a picture, I went to this ramen shop and it was really good. I tried to use the structure we have just learned, and then that becomes authentic content for them to consume. So I think that's one way to use Discord for your course, I think, or language course. And then, so I have a learning resource channel where students can share resources. So like Peter said, it's the resources we want to share is already here and it's relevant, right? This is one of the video I introduced in the class, but I also shared it here. But the issue with this thread is that the resources pile up, in the thread, right? So I also wanted to have another place where they can see all the resources we have shared. So for this, I actually use another app, online application called Dropmark. There are many other applications like this, to organize materials, online resources, or even your document. I just like this one for myself. It's just because I like looking at thumbnails. I think it's more motivating and cute. So I just use it to just compile resources that are shared here. But this, I have to use this too. I mean, I have to do this manually. And what I really like about Discord or this kind of platform is direct messaging. So at this point, this is basically the same as WhatsApp, right? Because you're just doing messaging with students or group of students. But since they're not associated to their phone numbers, we don't have to deal with the privacy issues that way, as long as you can find that student online. So I find it extremely easy to find past interaction with the student because all interaction with the particular students are saved in a thread. And then again, since I can indicate acknowledgement using emojis, I think it saves a lot of time. And also it makes the interaction a little more fun, I think. And also I can create group messages as well. And so the beginning, I mentioned that I started using Slack at the beginning. So Slack is a basically really similar platform. It looks really similar to Discord, right? But it has been used more by companies, businesses and stuff. But then I found out that it only keeps the data for 90 days if you have a free account. So I was like, oh, I cannot do this anymore. So then I moved to Discord. So basically the functionality is the same. So whenever I start using a new platform or start doing a new kind of series of assignment, I ask students for feedback. So I'm going to introduce some of the feedback I got from students. This is not all the questions, it's just some of the questions that I asked. So I administered this questionnaire 3 weeks after the Discord use commenced. And about half students completed the questionnaire. So the first question was it your first time using Discord for class? And about 20% said no. So that means some students have already used this for class. And then do you have the Discord app on your phone, tablet, or desktop? And 95% said yes. So it shows that they have already, they are familiar with the use of the Discord. And also I asked how has the use of Discord made communication with the instructor, and 73% said it made it significantly easier. And I also asked about the communication with the peers, and here it said 50% said it made it significantly easier. But this was before I did any group assignment. So if I ask them now, maybe more might say, yes, it made it easier. And also how has the use of Discord made sharing resources? And 65% said significantly easier. And also asked, what do you like about using Discord for a language course? This is just a selection of responses. I had a lot more that were similar. So this person said, allows students in the classroom to communicate with another and support each other's learning. really feel much more closer to everyone. And it was less intimidating for me to ask questions, takes less time, and it's much easier to reach out to the professor with small inquiries. And also, it makes the learning Japanese less stressful and formal. And these are two similar responses. I have Discord on almost always, so I can quickly check what is posted. And Discord is my main forum of online communication. So it's so much easier to navigate different types of materials. I think those feedback are really useful to just know how they are using Discord outside of the class. I also asked, what do you not like about using Discord? So these are the only things that they said. They said sometimes there are too many information to go over, maybe need a more detailed classification. That's something I can change next semester. And I found this interesting because I use Discord with my friends. I have a really personal profile, but I don't want my classmate or professor seeing that. So I had to make a new account with Columbia email for class. On computer, you can easily and quickly switch between Discord accounts, but on my phone, I have to manually log in and log out. So I feel like this is something that will be resolved maybe in the near future. So I'm not too worried about it, but maybe this is something I can talk about it at the beginning of the semester beginning of the next semester. And it is just another app to add to my numerous other apps. And I totally understand. I can say that to myself too, right? But in summary, I think the use of Discord saved me significant amount of time when communicating with students because of the use of DM. And also it seems to have made it easier for students to communicate with peers, instructors, and lower the threshold for students to reach out to the instructor. And I think it has encouraged students to be more active in sharing learning resources and so on. And so I guess one of the cons is just, like I said, some students did not want to display their real names, and they opted to show usernames instead. But so what you can do is we can ask them to put AKA. So as a real name, so they will have a username, but if you click on the username, they will show AKA and the real name. So that's one way of going around this. And also I got used to students' use of usernames faster than I thought I would. And now I don't feel, I feel pretty okay with students' usernames. As another possibility was Discord. So since the Discord is primarily for gamers, or it used to be primarily for gamers, there are a lot of free games, which I haven't really checked. And then they use chatbot that are programmable. So I was thinking, if you can program a chatbot, maybe we can create like an assignment or assessment uses the chatbot, right? So maybe it could be like a dialogue completion task, and you will program the chatbot so that the response of the chatbot will be different based on the input that the students create. So that's something that I'm interested in the future. And also I might try using the video communication for office hours in the future, but I haven't really tried it out, so I'm not really sure yet. But that's it. I really, really like Discord now, and I don't know what I'm going to do without it. So I highly recommend checking it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Chicago. This was lovely. This was so inspiring. I found it super inspiring. I hope you guys did as well. I would like to open the floor to questions, suggestions, observations, and here I'd like to start with Amy, who already has a question. So,
Well,
go ahead.
It's a good thing that you, or maybe not a good thing that you made me wait, because I don't have one question, I have now many questions.
There we go.
No, but I'll, for both speakers, And I did find it all very interesting, but I'll start with Peter. And my question, and then, my question is, I have two questions. Well, one question and a remark, because Peter, you mentioned that you wanted to use you thought of using WhatsApp because you wanted to lessen the paper printing, copying, which can be horrific. I know that. But I think another reason you haven't talked about that, and maybe you can, that you use it is because you wanted to increase the speaking in class. You do a flipped classroom model. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that. And the question I have is, you mentioned, I think, unless I misheard, that you use a different phone number than your personal phone number. So I wonder, do you have two mobile phone numbers, or do you use your personal one? Because that you might not want students to know your personal cell phone number. So that's my two questions.
Yeah, ideally, I have two numbers, and I can use one. Yeah, that's a very good question. Ideally, you would have two numbers, indeed. One for professional communication, used for WhatsApp to communicate with the students, and the other one's a personal number. Yeah. So that's the first question. And the second thing, indeed, is because in my classroom there are tons of speaking activities, so there are tons of speaking prompts. So there's a lot of paper that needs to be distributed to the students. So one of the reasons indeed of using WhatsApp is it's way more convenient, because otherwise the paper load that I would be using because of all the speaking prompts would be even, like you said, way more intense than others. Yeah. So it is the only disadvantage I can think of right now, and that's something that my colleague also mentioned, is for students, it might become a bit more difficult to keep track of all the files. So like you said, they're just one under the other, and I haven't found a way to order them. But yeah, what I tell them is, while revising for the chapter test, go over to WhatsApp, and then you just go to dates, this mentioned by dates, and then you check the files. But indeed, it's just like, at least at Columbia here, it's one list of files.
Yeah, that might be, yeah. So I wonder if, because is that stored on their phone, or is it stored on WhatsApp, or is that a stupid question?
I think it's stored on the servers of WhatsApp.
So it doesn't take room on the phone. That's what I mean. No, right?
Oh, but the files in themselves are not heavy.
Oh.
But I do know if they were to log out of WhatsApp and download it and install it again, then WhatsApp would automatically generate everything of the past. So WhatsApp keeps on track of whatever you're doing. So even if you're logging out and installing it on a new phone, you can easily just open WhatsApp again, and then you see all the files all over again.
And do you also store the files on Courseworks, or only on WhatsApp? So I wonder if you make a separate Courseworks module and you put the files there too, because some students might prefer to not look at their phone for those files. It's small, and might put, so then they have two chances to look at files, and one is on their laptop, which is much bigger. Maybe some students find that preferable. So you could consider doing two things.
Yeah, that's true. But laptop that's a valid point. But I noticed that some of my students just installed WhatsApp on their laptop. And if you install WhatsApp on your laptop, it's very easy. Then they see it as big as
I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah, but I might think of indeed posting it also on Canvas. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, thank you. So just a couple things here. You can actually choose to have your files be saved locally on your device, whether it is your phone or your computer. The ability to put WhatsApp on your computer is relatively recent.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Vaini. Anyone else? Hold on, we have two hands raised here. Let's go. Jose Antonio, go ahead.
Thank you both for the presentations. And my question is for Peter. And I am wondering, you say you don't want, one of the reasons why you did this was because you didn't want to do all the photocopies. And so what happens if they have to, or maybe the exercises that you do is only for speaking? What happens if they have to write, which I do some exercises where there is, they have to write the questions first and then they're gonna work on those questions. What happens then?
Indeed, that's a very valid point. But in my classes, we only use or only exchange files because we're doing speaking activities. And if they were to write in class, it would be on Canvas. Yeah, but that's indeed, if you in your class, you spend time or in class time on actually writing or doing activities on paper with, then of course, it's more easy just to give them a paper. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, that's a valid point.
I think Chris is next.
Yeah, this is a question for both presenters. First of all, thank you so much for your presentations. I thought, this is really great. And I think they're both strategies, both tools are ways of meeting students where they are in a certain sense and understanding that the apps that they use and the ways in which they like to communicate. And I was just curious for both of you to know what percentage would you say of your students use the mobile version of the app and what percentage are using the laptop version, either in class or I guess in class, because that's probably the only way you'd be able to judge. So either one, just a general ballpark, does it seem more phone or more laptop for the app usage?
I would say 10 to 15% uses the laptop and all the others just use their phone. Yeah. Maybe, I think, because not everyone's aware of the fact that you can use WhatsApp on the laptop. So next time I'll make it more clear, because everyone's indeed sitting with their smartphone in front of them, but they also have their laptop. So indeed, yeah, that's about interesting thing.
I also thought it was really interesting that so many students said they already had Discord on their phone.
Yeah.
I mean, I've used Discord from time to time, but not all the time, not a lot. So it's really surprising to see how many young people are using it.
Yeah, I don't know how many of them are using only mobile app versus this desktop app, but I think people who have been using should have mobile app for sure, because that's, that's like a texting, right? And that's what I think, but I could ask also.
I have a question, Chicago, short follow-up question. So for the people who are in your classes, would you say, I'm just trying to because it's a very high percentage of people who have Discord installed on their machines, right? And the one community that I certainly, can think of that would have that are geeks, right? Gamers, anime fans. So I'm trying to see, and those are also the people who are, who tend to be more likely to take Japanese, especially when we're talking about gamers, talking about anime. Is this something you're also picking up on too?
Yes and no. I didn't really connect the gaming thing with the Japanese language, but I think CS majors, they definitely have Discord, and then they do even programming chatbot.
Right.
I was talking to my students like, do you think this would be possible? So that I can get ideas from the students. Yes.
Okay. Vinny, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, this is another question for Chicago now. It seems that when you use Discord, there's a lot of things that students do outside of the classroom, namely, the Japanese culture channel and things like that. Can you keep check on how many students do that, and is it required for them to check these other things? And yeah, so like how often do they need to do that? Because it is extra work, of course, for students, so how likely or how enthusiastic are they on checking out on top of all the other things? Because I know that Japanese, you have more hours per week than most languages. How likely are they to be eager to do that extra work?
So they are not at all required.
Okay.
I don't want to make it required assignment because I think it beats the purpose of, being motivated to do the activity. But I do explain to the student that you will really learn when you try to answer the other students' questions, right? That's when you can check if you really understood, and trying to explain it to other people is a really good opportunity for you to learn. And also by asking questions in the community, you are helping other learners. So I really try to encourage them to do it. And I think students are also encouraged by seeing other people do it. And this semester, I think I wish I had more of those questions. I think I had more last semester, but I think I should probably try to come up with other ways to encourage them to do it or use it.
And on coursework, there is this thing called Ed discussions, which also probably could act as a back channel. And I've tried to use it, but absolutely zero people. Like, as I've used it for answering each other's grammatical questions and stuff, because I agree that that's a great learning tool, but zero students used it. So I wonder if they're more likely. Maybe it is because it's through coursework, so it's again something required, and and this is maybe more playful almost.
I think so, because I even feel like, oh, I have to log in to get to the Discord, the channel.
Right. Yeah.
Even for me, it's easier to just answer and then look at the discussion on Discord. And I think students also feel the same. And it's fun, I guess, visually, and you can use emoji and stuff. So I think it's more motivating for them to use.
And the account that you create is free?
Yes.
Okay. And for the students, for everybody, it's a free account. Okay.
For the basic use, it's definitely free.
If I may make a small comment here, I think part of the reason why students are more keen on using Discord over Ed may have to do with the degree of familiarity that they already have with the platform.
Right. Yeah. No, I can see that, and the fact that it's an app.
And it's already there. It's already open.
More low key.
Yeah, log in, authenticate, to go through Duo, and then you're there, and then it's all foreign, and then you have to learn.
Absolutely. The Duos also makes a difference. That I wonder if anybody uses Ed discussions, because in principle it looked appealing to me, but because of all those restrictions that you mentioned.
I used it when taking a course over the summer, actually on 2 occasions, 2 separate courses. And the only reason why we used it was because there was no other contact method with the instructor and the TAs. Like that was it. You couldn't send emails. Go ahead, Chris.
2 comments. Well, actually, a comment and a question. I've used Ed discussions. It was not for me. Let's put it that way. And my question is, what is kind of the range of people's engagement with WhatsApp or with Discord? Are there some students who don't really participate that much and others who participate a lot? And how do you motivate people to participate more if they're not really engaging?
I can go first. There are definitely some students who are very engaging and some are not. I think encourage them to use is something that I have to think about. But also engagement in Discord mirrors engagement in class as well, like quiet student. It doesn't mirror always, but I think this semester it actually goes kind of hand in hand. But for I would say direct messaging itself, I think it's everybody try to use it to reach out to me. I think it makes it easier for them to reach out. But in the channels, certain students definitely use more than others. And that's something that I can try to think about ways to resolve.
And I guess, Peter, you're really just using it to send them files and to communicate. So are there some who have never communicated with you through WhatsApp?
Well, I can talk about the students in Belgium who use it as a community platform. There are also differences, and there it's the opposite. Those, which is to be expected, those who are very shy and quiet in class, they use it to reach out to me, but they don't use the group chat, they use the individual direct messaging. So I think it works well with them. And to answer the question, if there are different level of engagement, it's totally optional to me. If they don't feel comfortable doing this, or I'm not going to force them, but I notice that those who need it the most, who are a bit shy, they know how to reach me via WhatsApp. Yeah. And regarding Colombia, it's the students who reach out to me via WhatsApp are the high performance students, but it's a small sample size, so I can't make any things.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments, contributions? Okay, I do have one more question to mostly to Chicago, I think. So you mentioned that you invite students from Japan, native speakers, to communicate with your students on Discord. Conversations which I'm assuming are taking place in target language. I'm wondering if there is any sort of transference, or rather if the communication, if the written communication with Japanese students transfers into their written skills in class. Is this something that happens realistically? And then also, if it does, if you could, maybe make a couple points and observations about how it transfers and what is that you noticed.
So I have this communication with the Japanese students on Discord, and also they are supposed to do, they're instructed to do a task together on a Padlet. So from the Padlet to written task in class, there was something that you were talking about. Learners use the form that we have learned yet. And then he said, oh, I saw the student in Japan using it in introducing themselves, and then they learn by looking at the form, and then they were correctly using it in class. So I was like, yes, right. At the moment that I was like, yes, I like it. So I think that's something like we can encourage them to do more. Like you can observe how the language is used and then encourage them to use it either in class activity or Discord or something.
Okay, thank you. I'm asking that because that is one of the points, or one of the larger observations that is made by Anna Oskos, and I forget her first name, but Ilola is the last name, in an article that we will be covering in our upcoming reading group, which will be on November 22nd at 10 a.m. here on Zoom in this very room. We do have a number of people who are interested in coming, who formally or informally express their interest in participation. So those who will already been messaged. If this is something that interests you as well, feel free to let us know, and we will share the article with you as well. And that is on November 22nd, so that is Tuesday before the fall break. Prior to that, on November 18th, we are actually going to have Anna Oskos in person talking to us about some of the things that she covered in the article as well. And those are largely in the context of digital literacy and digital mediated writing. So a big overlap with many of the topics that have been touched on today. Again, this event will be taking place next Friday at 3 p.m. this very Zoom room, and it's part of our invited guest talk series. There's something in chat. Let me just go there real quick here. Okay, that's James saying hello to Chris. Great. Oops, I went a little bit too ahead of myself. Okay, and if there are no further questions or comments, I would like to, first of all, thank our wonderful presenters for coming today and sharing their experiences, observations, and inspiring us to look into these back channeling platforms for all sorts of reasons. And I would like to thank you to the audience for participating in this event.